We are all grateful for Dan Hooker stepping forward to be the sacrifice to ensure that ILIA fights Arman. It was going to happen regardless. I don't think anybody else would have beaten Arman. Someone had to fight him. Someone had to give him his title shot. Many fighters avoided this challenge, but Dan Hooker didn't. But I, as well as many, are completely confused on the guillotines, dude. It seems like he learned too much from Dustin. Pulling the gilly essentially expedited his loss. Like, the arm triangle submission literally stemmed from it. So he allowed the establishment of those takedowns to happen much easier because of that. He was essentially sacrificing the position in an attempt to finish Arman, and grapplers like Arman are not going to be submitted that easily. Arman spun out of both guillotines and held the top position regardless. It was not only a huge mistake by Hooker, it was a repeated mistake. He didn't make the adjustment after the first one failed. So Arman escaped the submission and secured his position regardless, ultimately making Hooker's efforts quite detrimental, and I think it would have been a much better focus to try to stop the takedown entirely without attacking any submissions. You're not going to submit Arman. Islam wasn't able to submit this guy, and they rolled on the ground for much of that fight. Charles Oliveira could not submit him, even though he gave his best effort to do so. If those guys aren't going to do it, what in the world convinced Hooker that he could? I don't understand why Hooker shifted his focus to react offensively to the takedowns instead of defensively like he did for the first takedown. So Arman shot 3 takedowns in the fight. The first one was defended as Hooker put his efforts and thrown in the underhooks to defend the takedown. But for the second and third, he abandoned his defense and focused on offense. I don't know what caused that shift in mentality. There was a pattern that he would go for the guillotine when Arman attacked the single leg instead of the double leg. So the second and third takedowns were single legs. The first was a double leg. So Hooker defended the doubles, but attacked against the singles. So I don't know what caused such a sudden surge of confidence that he could submit Arman Tsarukyan. When it comes to fighting these high-level wrestlers, it is necessary to avoid the grappling, not attack against it, not fight off the bottom, not accept positions. You have to defend against it because it only gets worse. The positions get worse. The submissions get harder to defend. The ground and pound becomes more present. It's a simple concept and it works. Keep the fight where you're at your best. Dan Hooker, he can grapple. Everybody can grapple at this level except Gaethje, oddly enough. But compared to Arman, he would not be categorized as a grappler. So avoid it. Defend against it. Keep the fight standing. You were landing body kicks. You were at least having some success. Although he was losing, right? He was losing the striking. He at least had a fighting chance on the feet. He had no chance on the ground. Every single grappling exchange showed that Arman was one step ahead. And you would think after the first failed guillotine that he would abandon it. But I don't know, man. He saw some success or something. Maybe the headbutt just caused way more damage than we thought. I don't know. Did he take a look at the tattoos and the blonde hair and think he was Charles Oliveira in the moment? I don't know. So it all began as Hooker's posting with his long left arm, keeping distance on Arman, but he doesn't stop the takedown at all. Arman ducks under the post and shoots a simple single leg. Hooker's immediate defense to it is to counter with a guillotine. So he doesn't even fight off the hands. He doesn't try to throw in underhooks or anything. No wizard to try to reverse it. Absolutely shows no resistance at all, except by fighting against it with a guillotine. So Arman still takes him down from the single leg, and he doesn't wrap around the full guard until Arman starts rotating. Arman defends the guillotine by simply spinning in the guard. He does a full 360 and slips out of the guillotine, establishing his top position. Now, he does put his fingers all over Dan Hooker's face, and I'm not going to say there was an eye poke or not, but it was pretty concerning to see after a headbutt significantly damaged Hooker prior. Right, so we don't want to see any more fouls happen even on the ground. So he's pushing off Dan Hooker's face and he starts posturing up for elbows. Now the ground and pound here is very important because it conditions Dan Hooker to anticipate more ground and pound when Arman gets into the full mount. Quite a tactical use of ground and pound. So Hooker begins to focus on the ground and pound instead of keeping the position, which is why you see his guard open up. So Arman passes into half guard and doesn't focus to get into side control, which he secured in the first round, and was unable to inflict any damage from there. Instead, he focuses on full mount, and the path he chose to get there was by crushing Dan Hooker's face into the mat using that shoulder pressure. I mean, this guy is smashing Hooker into the ground, and Arman's pretty strong. The guy's built like a superhero. Well, from all that shoulder pressure, he opens up Dan Hooker's guard and passes into the 3/4 mount. He intelligently starts focusing on wrist control. So as you can see, he grabs on Hooker's left wrist and extends his arm fully to the side, and Arman begins his next series of ground and pound, or at least that's what he made Hooker believe. So he throws 2 shots and Hooker reacts by grabbing onto him. Arman starts pushing down at his head to posture up and create some separation so he can potentially land more, and that causes Hooker to start covering up. which is exactly what Arman was looking for. Once he got Hooker to get fully defensive by expecting more ground and pound shots, Arman does not commit for any more strikes. He focuses on wrist control once again. This time he grabs onto the right wrist and extends that out to the side as he leans on top of Hooker and gets his own head on the outside of Hooker's left shoulder. He successfully distracts Dan Hooker and gets head position for the arm triangle. And all he does from there is bring his arm inward to wrap around the head, securing the choke. All of this happened because Hooker decided to forfeit his standing position for a Hail Mary guillotine. His excitement to fight Arman may have shrouded the actual challenge that was ahead, or he just has low fight IQ, I don't know. Now we go to the head clash, which leads to Hooker's first guillotine. So Arman catches Hooker's jab and counters with a long left hook that gets blocked, but Hooker makes a mistake of dropping the jabbing hand and doesn't retract it into stance. I would say neglecting his defense, but his chin is his striking defense after all. Opening up a window for Arman to blast through with a right straight, connecting clean. Hooker takes the punch on the back foot and counters with a check left hook, and Arman proceeds to advance and charges his forehead into Hooker's face. Now, there's going to be a debate whether this was intentional or not, but honestly, I don't care about the intentionality. I only care about the effects of the foul. Whether Arman purposely headbutted him or not does not change the fact that he deformed Hooker's face with it. His eye was all messed up from that, and this should have been a point deduction regardless. Hooker is so incredibly tough, dude. He took the blow, continued the fight, grabbed onto the Thai plum, started to throw knees, but more importantly, controlled the position, pushing Arman up against the fence. So now it's his time to throw elbows, disengage, and let the hands go, try to get the knockout, or try to jump for the back take. Yeah, same thing. Nothing was stopping him from disengaging to a controlling long striking range and letting his hands go. But he stays there, and Arman reaches to the left side of Hooker's hip, anchoring there to use it as leverage so he can push and rotate his body to the side. And Hooker tries to take advantage of this by spinning around him in an attempt to get the back, jumping for the hooks, but this was not going to work against someone like Arman, dude. Hooker was unnecessarily offensive with his grappling, and you could spot how quickly Arman went to defend that overzealous back take. Look how quickly he goes to hook onto the single leg, which essentially alleviates the danger of this position, and he was able to reverse it, focusing on the single leg, and then Dan Hooker abandons the back take but maintains his focus on offense while deviating from the attack to a guillotine. And you can see from this position that he wasn't out of defensive options. He could have tried to dig in underhooks, pry open the grip, try to grab into a whizzer or something, kick out the legs, try to disrupt the balance. But instead of applying any effort for those defensive maneuvers, he instead focuses on attacking with the guillotine, which is something you don't do against Arman Tsarukyan unless you're like Charles Oliveira. And he tried to get the guard, but Arman escaped and spun out of the guillotine, establishing side control on top. So he didn't even control Arman in the guard. Arman made one big pass all the way into side control. Huge blunder by Dan Hooker there. Now, when we speak about the headbutt, there was also a knee that landed that could have possibly caused the hematoma. So he lands a knee directly to the brow area, and before the headbutt, you do see a small swelling on Hooker's left brow. So it's possible that the knee initially caused it, and then the headbutt worsened it. And Arman landed another combination by ducking under the jab and laying the left hook into a right straight combo, and Hooker had some success with landing some body kicks that Arman acknowledged after the fight. But ultimately, it was a pretty straightforward and easy win for Arman, and Hooker made some crucial mistakes in the grappling that expedited his loss. So it was a great win for Arman. He was winning in the striking, he was winning in the grappling, and finally this sets up the ILIA Topuria fight. And I hope they don't go to Paddy Pimblett, dude. Bro, have Paddy fight Max Holloway or Charles, or I would say Gaethje, but he doesn't want to fight the other contenders, so hopefully he withers away in the rankings because he's not getting that title shot. Let's set up ILIA versus Arman for early next year. Arman needs to make up for lost time, and capitalizing on the first Paramount card is ideal, just as they hinted before for ILIA. So Paddy should fight Max or Charles. Man, I would love to see Hooker fight Gaethje, but obviously that's not going to happen. Maybe Hooker versus Benoit Saint Denis would be an insane fight, dude. You got to have that as like a main event to a fight night or on the main card of a pay-per-view or something. And that is the end of the breakdown, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Give the video a like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and I'll see you guys in the next video. And the lesson of the day is that Herb Dean was full of BS when he said that the refs would be stricter on fouls. We had eye pokes, we had a headbutt, and nothing happened.